Surely you'll like our sherry.
Don't call me Shirley. I'm Greg.
I'm Julie, and we're the Crafty Winers.
Today is Fortified Wine Day.
Mm-hmm.
We just started a Madeira that is very similar to our port, so you want to watch probably both of those videos if you're interested in fortified wines. And today we're doing a sherry, which she knows a whole lot more about the history of sherry because she has researched it.
I have some notes, and I found this article that, and I'll be honest, I didn't read the entire thing because it was like so in depth on sherry going back to like 1 BC or something. It was ridiculously long. So I just gleaned, a few notes out of there because it was not really that exciting to read. So sherry, unlike the last two we've done, the port and the Madeira, is a fortified Spanish wine, not Portuguese. The English term sherry is derived from the Moorish name for the region Sherish, guess that makes sense, which in turn came from the Arabic name for the city of Jerez. This is where it apparently started out a long, long time ago. Sherry encompasses...
Before you were born?
Before you were born.
Well, it was a long time ago then.
Sherry encompasses a range of styles from dry, fino, and manzanilla, are two of the versions of that, to sweet cream and Pedro Jimenez. We have tried the Pedro Jimenez. I don't think we've ever tried sweet cream. And we have tried a drier one, but I don't know which one it was.
The Pedro was really sweet.
It was really, really sweet.
I think we both liked it, but neither of us liked it as much as we bought a whole bunch of fortified wines, and some of them kind of expensive, and went through a few weeks of eating cheesecake every night,
which was not good for our diet.
Drinking different fortified wines, but yeah, it wasn't good for the diet.
The Pedro Jimenez is a little on the spendy side, and
yeah, well, it was like $40 for a bottle that was...
It was small.
Like, it was half the size of a standard wine bottle.
And really, like, those little... Show the little dessert wine glasses we have. This was too much of it. Like, half of this was enough.
I agree.
Yeah.
But very tasty, just very sweet.
It's very
prepared for the sweetness.
The very first mention of sherry wine comes from the Greek geographer Strabo. Go Strabo. In the 1st century BC. I told you it went back a long ways. His book on geography, volume 3, if you want to check that out in your local library, just run right down there and get his book on geography. He writes that the first vines were brought to the Jerez region by the Phoenicians in 1100 BC. So, long, long time ago. I guess a series of historic events that I'm not going to name because it was a really long article were celebrated with sherry wine, as proven by the fact that Magellan actually purchased 417 wineskins and 253 kegs of sherry.
Wow, he would have been my buddy.
Before he set out on his long voyage. We don't know for sure if it actually got all the way around the world. It says that sherry was the first wine to complete a voyage around the world.
If they drank all that, they probably didn't make it all the way around the world.
Well, I'm not sure the sherry made it all the way around the world. It could have been gone before they got there. But we'll just say it went all the way around the world.
Just think how many more places they would have discovered if they wouldn't have had the sherry.
It was a fun trip, though. Oh. It's also I thought this was really interesting. It's documented that William Shakespeare drank a few bottles a day.
Bottles?
Bottles. That's what it says.
Okay.
A few bottles.
Now, sherry is a little bit higher ABV than your typical wine, too, so go Will.
So that might explain a few things. Yeah. Anyway, that's my notes, and I'm done with that. Whoop, it didn't land on the floor like I anticipated.
Letterman. You almost woke up the dogs, but not quite.
Whoop, whoop.
I said dog, that woke them up. Hi. You with us? Go back to sleep.
All right. All good.
This is different from the other fortified wines in that this is fortified, but you typically are going to let this go dry. You're not going to stop it in the middle of fermentation like you do port or Madeira. We are not huge dry sherry fans, however.
No.
It's a little bit harsh, and it's a little bit like a hard alcohol taste and feel to it. And we're not big fans of hard alcohol, so we're probably not going to, I'll put it a different way. We're going to try to not let this go completely dry, although we don't really have a number in mind. We just want this to be probably like 1.10 or something, about 10 points above dry. 1.06 for a red wine is a sweet. It's an unfortunate red wine. It's a little too sweet. We want this to be a little sweeter than that, so I'm thinking like 1.1. So we're going to be shooting. I don't know that we're going to hit it because we're not going to be watching this terribly close. And I'm not using a tilt on this one. Tilt hydrometer, which is a hydrometer that will let you monitor it on an app on your phone. Unfortunately, you can't set an alarm to tell you when you're close, but anyway, we're not using one because there's really no point. We're just going to try to catch this when there's a little bit of sugar. So we want there to be more than 1.006 sugar, but we're not going to be losing sleep while we're trying to catch it there. We're just going to try to catch it when it's still bubbling a little bit, still active a little bit. We'll taste it, see if it seems like the sweetness level that we're looking for, and then we're going to fortify it by adding, drum roll please. And if you just watched our Madeira video, I'm sorry, because I'm copying some of the funny.
Uh-oh, it's up.
It's awake. Did we wake you
Who
up?
woke the beast?
Oh my. Beast number 1 and beast number 2.
No. Here's
Get
another
your
one.
paws off her.
Get your paws off me.
Your tongue off me. Where was I? So we are going to dump 1/10 of a gallon. So 1/5 of a gallon of Everclear is a bottle of Everclear. We're going to put half of one of those, which is 1/10 of a gallon, to stall the fermentation. So I've done some math. I know I've got a sticky note that's from my original gallon of sherry that we made. The sticky note's got the math, and I knew about the proportions that I wanted, and it came out good enough that I'm still using the sticky note gets attached to all of our batches now. It's just kind of a tradition.
Yes, except for there's a point where that sticky note's not going to be sticky anymore. It's seen some wear.
It's gotten splashed on it a few times already, but the sticky note said we wanted to have 9/10 of a 12% wine and 1/10 of a bottle of Everclear to come out with an 18.35% sherry, and that's right in the range of where you want sherry to be. So other particulars on this, Madeira, we added tannin. We're not doing that to this.
No.
We are going to add oak to it. We are going to fortify it, but we're not stalling it as we did the Madeira. And we're also going to oxygenize this, or oxidize it. The oxidization is one of the most important parts of any of the fortified wines that we are making, port, Madeira, and sherry. And what that does is it turns them to a more brown color, and it changes the flavor to a little bit more of a nutty, milder flavor. Speaking of mild, you will not be able to tell that it's Everclear in it when this is done. And the reason we're using Everclear, like we explained on the Madeira video that we just filmed, we can't get neutral grape spirits here.
Yeah.
Neutral grape brandy, which is what's traditionally used. We can't make it ourselves legally, and if we did, we wouldn't put it on video.
No, we wouldn't.
We want to do something that you guys can reproduce, and Everclear is, generally speaking, pretty easy to get. There are some states, a couple of states, where it's illegal, but this 151 proof Everclear, this is not the started on fire with a lighter Everclear that a lot of states have outlawed. This is 75.5% alcohol. The heavy stuff, I think, was 100% alcohol. This is diluted a little bit.
She's pitching in.
Is it treat time?
Oh.
Is it treat time?
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess I said it then.
I guess Timmy's in the well.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and give you a treat.
And then you need to be quiet
And
for a
then
few
you
minutes.
need to shush. Okay. Can we?
Let's get him to turn around and face the camera.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What? Are we good? All right. Okay. Walk. Do your walk. It's so cute. Oh, that's cute. Okay, you can do it too. Do your walk, walk. Walk, 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 walk. Oh, good girl. Okay. Can you go to sleep now?
Yeah, go back to sleep. We got work to do. Okay, so back to our sherry. So with this math, we want this to be a 12% line. So we are going to have to add a little bit of sugar. We already know how this concentrate. So this concentrate, as I said in our Madeira video, the concentrate that we had to get comes in a wine kit. It's Cru International, Muscat style. We do have grapes that we're growing that are Muscat of Alexandria. So we eventually, in a year or two, are going to have grapes that we can use and we won't have to use kits.
And we're going to show you pictures of our awesome grapevines.
I do believe that Walker Wine Juices has...
They have a Muscat.
A Muscat. It's yeah. But we have not been able to sample it yet.
Not yet.
So, Walkers, can you help us out? But for right now, the way that we had to get the juice is in a wine kit. So the other ingredients of the wine kit went away, and we will use them in an emergency if we need to have bentonite or whatever that else came with it. But what we're after here is the juice. And we did the math on the prior video. This particular kit, we want 45 ounces of concentrate per gallon. So I hate taking the cap off, and that's why Walker is such a good choice, because they have a pour spout on their it's not concentrate, on their juices.
Yeah.
But that's 45 ounces, and that is the amount you want for full strength concentrate for a gallon. And I'm pushing the air out before I put the cap back on, and then I'm putting this back into the fridge pronto. So this one we are adding a tiny bit of sugar to. Do you want to know how to do a hydrometer? Watch our hydrometer video to find out how to take a hydrometer reading. We know for a fact what this is going to end up being when we add water to get it to a gallon. It's going to be 1.082. The Cru International juice is always going to come out that way. So we can save ourselves a little bit of time, because we already know that that's what it's going to be if we don't add sugar. We want this to be 1.090, however, which is going to end up being that 12% alcohol. So we need to add 3.2 ounces of sugar to it to get it to that point.
Just a teeny
I can
bit.
add that right now and save ourselves some steps, and then we'll do the hydrometer just to prove that we did it correctly here at the end. So I'm going to get 3.2 ounces of sugar, and I'll be right back. So 3.2 ounces of sugar is not very much sugar, but it's just to get us up to the point where we want to be, that 12%. And again, watch our hydrometer video to show you how we got to that. But when you know the percentage of alcohol you want to get to, which is 12%, and you know what your specific gravity is of the juice, then you use our calculator at craftywineries.com/tools. It'll tell you how much sugar to add. So we're going to measure it to get our initial gravity and prove that all of this came out right. But right now, we're using our previous recipe to know how much sugar to add. So I need to add water to get this up to 128 ounces now. And that bottle's not going to do it. So that's 128 ounces, which is 1 US fluid gallon. Yeah. Versus solid gallon, I guess. Now I'm going to stir it up using our pumpkin gutter and power tool. Okay, and anybody want to bet me that this ends up being around really close to 1.090? That added sugar.
Everyone's betting on it right now. High stakes.
I have the ace, and that you can't see them reading on the meter, so I can say
true.
whatever I want to.
Make up whatever you want to.
I'm not going to do that though. It is let's say 1.091. It's floating just a little tiny bit below the line. So really darn close. That's where we wanted to be, and I just poured that back into the pitcher.
Yeah, you did.
We want to check the pH now, and to do that, I know we're going to have to adjust it. And in this case, I know it's going to be about half a teaspoon of potassium bicarbonate to get us to the 4.0 pH that's our target to start this. The yeast likes it to be between 4 and 6. We like it to be right at 4, because then it's going to end up in a place where we like it to be. So The last batch of this was 3.62, using the same Crew International Muscat concentrate. This is 3.66. Are you reading about?
Yep. She's reading about sherry. She's learning.
3.66. So we're going to want to probably put a little bit less than a half teaspoon in here of potassium bicarbonate.
I have a quarter teaspoon.
I just don't do a level. Do a less than level half teaspoon.
A less than level half teaspoon. Okay.
I have faith you can do it.
I'll try to do that. How's that for less than level?
Like that, yep.
Okay.
The reason I said that is that at one point, or at 3.62, I added a half a teaspoon. Wow,
it's a fizzing.
I like that. 3.62, I added a half teaspoon potassium bicarbonate. It ended up being 4.08. And this is higher than 3.62, so a half teaspoon would take it higher than 4.08. So that's...
Guess that just goes to show you, even with wine kits where they're pretty precise on everything being exactly the same, sometimes it's different.
Yeah, pH is it's an animal I don't totally understand. And are we missing? No.
Oh, no.
We have a power tool.
We have a power tool.
We have a stainless steel spoon too, but we'll use the... Okay, so when we take this reading, we want this to be right at 4. I'm going to let her read it off.
4.02.
Pretty darn close. So at this point, this juice was in the fridge for maybe 5 minutes between videos.
Not very long.
So it's not very warm.
It needs to be warmed.
But we want it to be 85 degrees before the Go Firm and the yeast go into it. So she's going to warm it up in the microwave, and we have a infrared thermometer.
This thing.
So she knows that it'll be what, about 15 seconds or something?
It depends. It was 10 last time, so it'll probably be 12 because it was in the fridge for a little bit.
So she's going to get that to the right temperature for the yeast. The yeast likes it to be 80, 85 degrees when we put it in there. It's not going to fry it. And we also want the juice and that to be the same temperature when that goes into there. But we'll talk about that when she comes back.
Okay, so 12 seconds, got it to 87.
Good. So we are, again, wanting this to go almost dry. We want to catch it a little bit before dry. If it does go dry, don't fret it. We can put some concentrate back in it to sweeten it up, or you can drink it dry. You might like it dry. We just don't really like dry sherry. We like it to be a little bit sweeter. So, because we're trying to let it go the distance, we definitely want to use Go Firm on this, although it's optional, but it helps it go the distance to dry.
Hercules, that's what comes into my mind.
Go the distance?
Yeah, go the distance.
You've watched way too many cartoons.
I know. That's what happens when you have kids and grandkids. It's a good movie.
So 2 tablespoons of Go Firm. That is a nutrient for the yeast to allow the yeast to start off in a really good shape.
And look how well it dissolved because it was warm.
When it's warm.
Yeah.
Really suggest warming it up.
Yeah.
Don't put your yeast in until it's around 85 degrees at the most Fahrenheit, and I'll put up the Celsius.
And I'm going to put in
half a teaspoon
of this Fresco cider yeast.
Now, this is the same type of fermenter that we used in the Madeira video. This is a Chinese, I think it's a kombucha fermenting, is what they call it, glass. It comes from Amazon. I'll put it in the description below, assuming that you can still get it. We've had this for a little while. But if not, you want something that's a little bit bigger than a gallon. One, the headroom at the top makes it so that it's not going to bubble out, go onto your floor.
Right.
But second, we are going to be putting half a bottle of Everclear in here, and we need to have room for that. And if you don't have that room, you'll have to put this into another vessel that does have room at the end, and it's just a lot easier to start with the right one. I'm not using a tilt on this, a tilt hydrometer, because I don't need to try to catch it at the right specific gravity, and my tilts are both tied up right now. So you don't need to use a wide mouth It's just this is handy because of the headroom at the top.
Yeah.
That's the biggest reason. So this and the yeast are going to go into a very warm area, an 85 or so degree area, for 2 hours. And at the end of that, we want this to be about the same temperature as this, and then we're going to dump this in there. And again, we want this to go almost to dry. So that being the case, after this is going to be 80 to 85 degree fermentation, so it's going to be a fairly quick fermentation. So after 3 days, I'm going to use my food saver, and I'm going to get a lot of the carbon dioxide out, called degassing. I'm going to add some Fermento that allows it the nutrient that it needs to get the rest of the way to dry, or about dry again in this case. And then I'm going to add some oxygen in to help the yeast be a little bit healthier to go the distance. So I do that all on the 3rd day. If you do this at a cooler temperature, it'll probably be the 5th day. But I'll put those schedules up on the screen. That is somewhat important in this case, because you do want this to be able to go almost dry. You don't want this to stop with too much sugar in it. And those nutrients will allow the yeast to get to where you want them to be, or at least where you got control over where you want to stop it. Mm-hmm. So after 2 hours, we're going to pour this into this. And 3 days later, we'll do what I just said. And then probably, most likely at 80 to 85 degrees for us, it'll be done in about a week. Mm-hmm. Or to the point where we want it to be. So hopefully that lines up with our next filming day. If it doesn't exactly line up, we will probably put it in the fridge to stop it. Or that it doesn't halt the fermentation, it just pauses it until it warms up again. And that'll allow us to have control over where this is when we show it to you. And I'm going to say there's probably a good chance that'll happen, because we don't usually get so lucky that it gets to the level right on the filming day. So most likely we'll take this out of the fridge where we've paused the fermentation, and that's where you're going to see us next time. Okay, a week has gone by, and this is still a little bit active, but we're hoping that it's close, and we have not tasted it yet.
Nope.
So if it's not ready, we will have to come back next week. Again, we want it to be a little sweet.
A little sweet.
Preferably, but not a whole lot sweet. If it tastes about what we want, then we'll take the gravity and see where it's at.
Yeah. That is not uber sweet, and it's not dry.
I really like the taste,
It's good.
We're drinking live yeast because there's still activity.
It's a little fizzy.
Screaming down our throats. Okay, so now we're going to take the gravity. 1.01. Maybe 1.011. So, what would that?
That would be... I was in the wrong tool.
This is really cloudy, but we're going to fix the cloudiness.
Wait, 0.1, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 10.6, basically. 10.59.
Okay, so it's a little bit less ABV than we wanted, but it's got the sweetness level that is actually pretty good. So we could give this, we've got lots of choices, but not as many choices because we're filming. We could let this go drier, but we don't want it really dry. We want it kind of sweet.
I like the level.
So if we were going to let it go drier, we would either have to put it in the fridge to pause it when it got to the point it wanted, because a full week from now, I guarantee it'd be completely dry.
Yeah.
So I think my opinion is we go forward with this level of sweetness and this ABV.
Well, let me see.
And it'll be a little bit less. So we've got I think I might have said the wrong thing last time I said it. This is a combined beverage ABV calculator on craftywineries.com/tools.
So we're going to have 9 parts.
We'll have 9 parts of this and 1 part of Everclear. That was by design, but not totally coincidentally, that's all we have of Everclear left. Is half a bottle, which is a 1/10 of a
And the
gallon.
Everclear is 75.5, right?
Yeah. 151 proof is 75.5.
Okay, so that will bring it to an ABV of 17.
17%.
Which is good.
That's healthy. That's enough to keep the yeast docile as well. And that's the other consideration when you're making this style of wine. We're not adding potassium sorbate or potassium metabisulfite. we're counting on the alcohol keeping this shelf stable and keeping the yeast dead.
Keeping it dead.
Yeah.
That sounds morbid.
I mean, you can have 15% wine. I have had 15% wine start
Yeah.
fermenting again. So there's a big difference between 15 and like 18. But this should be good. And we're going to drink this probably fairly quickly anyway because we're on a dessert wine kick right now. So
And the range for
hopefully
sherries.
the tail end of that kick.
The range for sherries is between 15 and 20. So we're right there.
So we want to. This is still fermenting, and I'll zoom in, but you still may not be able to see it.
It's got a little
This
bubbling.
yeast is still alive, and we're gonna
change that.
We're gonna change that, and I want to do that now. Now we got a couple choices here. We can rack this now into another container, and I don't see a lot of point because there's really not a lot of sediment at the bottom for whatever
There
reason.
really isn't. So we can just put the
I
additives
think we'll
in
just
there.
put the additives in this container. So bye yeast. Thanks for all your hard work. Sorry. Now it's sad. Now I'm gonna have to drink more.
Like you needed a reason for that?
So we aren't gonna end up racking this per se. We're going to put the racking additives though, or some of them, into this container, and then maybe add some things. A lot of times, I don't know that we'll do it today, but sometimes in these fortified white wines especially, and we're doing it in the ports too, we'll add figs and raisins to just add some more texture.
Yeah.
But we're not prepared to do that because I typically put those in the freezer before, and then we'll mash them up real good, and I'm not prepared enough today. So next time we do a video on one of these fortified white wines, we'll show you how we do that process. Feel free if you want there to be some fig or raisin notes to your fortified wine. We usually put them in an infuser. You can let them just float in here. If you put them in an infuser, you need to mash them though because the skins seem to be hard to penetrate.
Yeah.
Even when you freeze them
I
and thaw
think
them.
letting them just float freely is going to release the most flavor.
It looks kind of gross, and you might lose a little bit of the wine because of what ends up being floating in there, but
raisins are just really hard to mash. There's just not any juice in there anymore.
Super sticky and
Yeah.
hard to work with. So I think
we are going to put oak in
We'll
it,
skip
though,
that.
right?
We are going to put
Yeah.
oak in it. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and put these additives so I don't get off track.
So the additives that we're adding are only clarifiers. We want this to be really clear. We don't usually put these things in our ports because they're red, and we don't mind them being a little bit cloudier. Some of the ports that we liked the most were not completely clear, so that's not really important to us. Right now I'm stirring this. This is important to stir the Everclear up with the yeast, by the way. Hear those death knolls.
And I put the chiasosol right in here and not in here.
So it goes after one charge of particle, and the chitosan that she put in here goes after the other charge. And it's good to not put them in at exactly the same time. Usually we try to give them at least an hour separately before we combine these. We don't do that on filming days, however, so...
Just in the interest of time. So this won't be quite as clear as it possibly could be.
Yeah, yours will be clearer if you do it the right way. Did we get doggies in this video?
Well, I mean, they're in it, but they're kind of boring. Should we change that?
Do you want a treat?
Whoop. Somebody perked up.
Treats?
Okay.
Did somebody say treats?
What can we do? What can we do?
Move over a little so the camera...
Can we roll over? Ooh, you good girl.
Wow.
Yeah. How about Nori? Can Nori roll over? Can Nori roll over? Roll over. Oof. Good girl. All right.
Got more?
I do, but not for right now. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and add this in here.
We are drinking port.
We are. Our port.
These little glasses are kind of cool. They came from Amazon, of course.
Oh, we'll show you the bottle too. Got a pretty label. And a cute little bottle.
Everything came from Amazon, but the labels we printed.
Those are ours. I don't know about the actual label that we printed on.
The label that
It
we
came
printed
from.
on came from Amazon.
And even the printer that we printed it with came from Amazon.
Do a lot of Amazon really kind of likes us
Yeah,
for
they
some
do.
reason. Okay, so now we're going to add some oak.
Oh, which I did not grab.
This oak is brand new out of the bag, but it spent 10 minutes in the oven at 225 degrees to make sure that it's got no bugs on it. Not as important when you're dealing with a high ABV drink like this,
True.
beverage.
We just usually do it anyway.
We just do it out of habit because we don't know where it's going to go sometimes. And we do that when we take it out of the bag right off the bat. It gets sterilized. So
I don't have any more room.
I'll put the ounces of oak that we put in there up on the screen because it's escaping me right now. I think it's 3/4 of an ounce or something. But so now this is going to go away into a warm area. In this case, it's going to be our fermenting room, which actually isn't terribly warm, but it's not going to be in a fridge, I guess is my point. And we're going to keep it in there for 2 to 3 months, just like this. It's very important that the Everclear has a lot of time to meld with its new buddies, its new companion, and otherwise it will just taste like Everclear. So that 2 to 3 months is going to be super important. That also will make it so that the oak gets infused a little bit. And then when that 2 to 3 months is up, we will give it a little taste and make sure that the Everclear is very much in the background. And if it is, we're ready for the next step. And that is to aerate, oxygenate this. Extremely oxygenate this. And you'll see here in just a second what we're talking about.
Well, a second for you.
Yeah. For us, it'll be a long 3 months. Okay, well, it's been short of 3 months. It's been like 2.5 months.
Yep.
And we did a little taste of this, and we believe it's ready.
Well, ready for the next step.
Ready for the next step. The Everclear taste is very diminished. There's still a little bit there, but the next step will get rid of that, we believe. So what we need to do, we're going to use this aquarium pump along with this contraption, and I'll put all these parts down in the description below. And this is exactly the same setup we used on our port video.
Mm-hmm.
So if you missed something on this one, or if I didn't explain something well on this one, watch that one. These are aeration stones, and they're plugged into tubing that goes to an aquarium pump via a splitter with a couple of valves. So this allows me to do, in theory, 2 batches at once, but because you need a lot of headroom, it ends up being like 1 gallon. It ends up being 1 batch, but in 2 jars, right? And I have flow control to make sure that the amount of oxygen that's going, or air, that's going to each one is the same. I've tried a lot of methods. I spent a lot of money on things that didn't work.
And made a mess.
This pump, we had some disasters. This pump works well. It's consistent. It doesn't over oxygenate it. It's controllable. This is the way that we will probably, I don't see us finding a better way of doing this. These pumps are not terribly cheap, but they're not terribly expensive either. If you're into fortified wines, this is a good investment. Only thing, if I was going to make it better, it would have a switch. You have to actually unplug it and plug it in to turn it off and on, but that's pretty petty. So we're going to want to oxygenate this for at least 48 hours. And I've done a lot more. I've done less. 48 hours for us seems to be the sweet spot. And you'll get an idea of the level here when we start this. There is no measurement that I can give you to say this is how much oxygen you need to put through. That doesn't really exist. But this is a super important step in these Port Madeira. I always forget the name of
Sherry?
sherry. This is a very important step in any of these fortified wines, such as Port, Madeira, sherry. This oxygenation thing is super important. Now, Typically wines you want to use an auto siphon, and we could use an auto siphon, but we are not afraid. In fact, we're encouraging oxygenation at this point.
Yeah, we
And
are.
because it's a lot quicker, I'm going to make a fool of myself and spill this all over my bar, probably, but I'm going to just pour this
Let's hope
from
not.
one into the other. And I want it to be 50-50-ish. And I also want my oak to be 50-50-ish.
Which is why I brought out this nifty spoon. But we got one in there.
Really close. Another half an inch.
Okay.
Look at that.
Now we gotta scoop out some oak.
So I want to try to get half the oak. I want these to be as close to each other as I can. So it's not super critical, but if you want them to taste pretty much as close to each other as you can, then you want to. And I don't know how many oak cubes. We didn't count the oak cubes. We did it by weight. But I'm guessing
That might be half of them.
I'm going to say that's probably half of them. And if you want to, you can pull them all out and count them.
What?
I'm pretty sure that that's really close to half. And you saw how clear that was. It's not clear anymore. But wait what happens when I start pushing air through them. And this is air. This is not pure oxygen. Although we did try that. We rented an oxygen tank. And that ended up making a big mess.
That was yeah.
And we tried if you watch our aeration video that I'll link, we use they came from Ace Hardware, some little tiny oxygen tanks to do our aeration of wine, and they work great for that. But for the time periods that you have to do for like 48 hours, you'd literally go through 20 of those, and they're like $15 a piece. So it's cost prohibitive.
Did not make sense.
So just using air, which if you think about it,
Really
in
is.
Portugal on the ships, it was air. It wasn't pure oxygen. So why go to the expense of oxygen? So what I usually do here, and I should have thought of it before, is I put the hoses through the lids of these things so that if they do erupt, they aren't going to erupt very far. So these hoses come off the tea very easily. It's a little bit more of a trick to get them through the holes in the lids because these are fast track lids. These are nice lids.
As opposed to the other not nice lids.
Well, the other ones I drilled the holes through and put the grommets through, and they're not as even.
They work, though.
They work. These fast track ones are done at the factory, or at least somebody that's a lot more skilled than I am at drilling the holes. They're perfectly round all the time. Anyway, so you put them in, the end that goes into the tea you put in first, and then just pull it through. And then you have basically a custom way of making sure that this doesn't, if it does overflow a little bit, it's not going to go very far. Just like that. Maybe another half an inch or more, a little more.
A little bit more.
And you don't want to put this on tight because the whole point is exchanging oxygen through this. If I put it on like that, you can do a turn or two. That'll keep any insects or whatever out. It still lets air go in and out because you don't want this to. Well, the air pump will quit if this is airtight. It's probably not going to blow up, but it could, I suppose.
And we don't want that.
Knock on wood, I haven't had any explosions with this setup using the lids like this. And that's
But
definitely...
you did with other ones.
I have had 2 major explosions with 2 other ways that I tried. So that's why I go through the time and trouble of doing the lids like this, so that I don't want to walk down into our studio area and find a big puddle of liquid that I tried so hard to make. Find it all over the floor, and the dog's licking it up or whatever. Okay, so then the other end goes back onto my tea. I know that the ends of these are pretty close to the bottom, right? My lids are not on too tight, so everything seems to be ready. And then I plug in my pump. And it may be a little harder to hear me when I have this plugged in.
And there we go.
So I have my controls over the levels. I pretty much just want to make sure that they're the same. I may need to turn one down and one up just to try to get the bubbling the same. And I want to have the bubbling as high as I can without it being obnoxious. So I just turned that one off. So I know this is that one. I'm going to turn this one up as far as it'll go to the other direction. And sometimes they don't react the same, because like this one has more gas in it because it was the bottom part. This has less gas, so it doesn't look the same now, but after they've run for a while, they'll start looking more the same. But I'm going to let it sit like this for a minimum of 48 hours. And what we're doing is mimicking about 30 years of oxygen going through a cask that this is in, and exchanging and oxidizing and rusting basically this beverage. So that's what this is doing, is basically mimicking that. So if you want to skip this step, just let this stuff sitting in your basement for 30 years and you'll get the same thing.
30 years.
But we're not that patient. So this will end up having that rusted, oxidized, nutty flavor in this that you can't get without doing this step. We usually only record on Fridays, every week. Mm-hmm. So we're going to let this sit doing this oxygenating for 48 hours, and then we will come back and give it a taste.
Okay, we are back, and this is done aerating. It was aerating for 3 days, and then we stuck it in the fridge, so it's cold.
It's cold crashed.
Yeah, cold crash, and it's still got the oak in there. I guess we'll decide if we need to take it out here in a minute. We did taste this a couple of days ago, but at that time it hadn't gone to the fridge yet. It was room temperature. It had just got done aerating, so I assume it's going to taste a lot better now.
Sure.
You'll notice there's something floating in here that didn't used to be.
Fishing bobber.
We decided after the fact that we wanted to... Our last batch we just made plain, didn't add anything to it, but we've seen that a lot of times people will add figs or raisins or something like that to dessert wines to give it a little more body. So we decided to put raisins in ours, and so it's been sitting on the raisins for a while.
It is how many ounces of raisins?
That's
50-50 fig. It's 50% fig and 50% raisin.
Okay.
And
I don't know. I can't read.
3 ounces.
3 ounces of each?
It basically is as much as would fit in this little infusion.
And it's not very big.
And it's only in one of them. It's not in this one. So we are going to probably want to taste both.
Guess we should taste both, yeah.
Let's taste the one that doesn't have that first, and then we'll see if there's a difference.
I'm pretty sure that's the one we tasted a few days ago. I don't think we ever tasted the one with the fruit in it. So I'm curious.
Now, we're not huge fans of dry sherry.
What I really don't like is the Jimenez one? That's super sweet. The really sweet one. The more expensive one, actually.
Yeah.
But I don't like that one. I'm not a fan. I can drink about this much of it and I'm done. But this I could drink a dessert wine glass of this.
Yeah, but it is dry.
It is dry.
That's going to be the next thing we're going to decide here, is if we want to put a little bit of concentrate in it. So, did I leave you enough to taste? No, you just tasted it.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the one that has got
the
raisins
figs.
So it hasn't been in there for a terribly long time.
No.
But it was in there during the aeration, which is going to draw out that flavor quicker. And we probably will leave it in there longer.
Well, it does taste different. I can't say that I place raisins or figs, but it tastes different than that one.
So, my original notes on the batch note: fortified, oxidized, and oak. Mm-hmm. And we knew from the beginning that we may want to sweeten it. So what I think I would like to do is put some concentrate in this one, since this also has the figs and raisins, and just see if we like it better with different amounts of concentrate. And then if we do, we can do the same to the other.
Which kind of concentrate are we wanting to use?
What we have is...
What is it? Is it
Edelweiss.
Edelweiss? It is.
This was fairly clear before I took the infuser out to look at it, and it clouded everything up a little bit, but we're going to be stirring it now, so it's definitely going to get cloudy, but that's fine because we just put it back in the fridge.
So we're going to leave that one and put this, the sweet in this one.
This is a comparison, so we'll see which one we like.
Okay.
So 2.5 ounces is like the magic number for, or close to 3 ounces is where I like to do white Zinfandel.
But
I don't.
White Zinfandel, I don't know. It might be sweeter than what I want this to be.
Then we'll do a little less. We can always put more in. So 2?
Let's try 2.
I don't know if I need to stir this, but...
Oh, you could shake it.
I'm just...
And did you say this was Edelweiss concentrate?
Yes, this is actually the concentrate that we did on camera.
Oh, yeah. It is.
Okay, so we're putting 2 ounces of Edelweiss concentrate. Ooh, look how cloudy that gets very quickly.
Here, I'll write that down.
And I'm going to make it even cloudier because I'm going to have to stir it. It will probably affect the taste a little bit when it's cloudy because you got particles that you're tasting. So you got to try to look beyond that.
Oh yeah, it just doesn't look very good anymore.
Looks like mud.
Okay, I wrote that down.
So we're looking for a little more flavor and a little more sweet, or a little less dry, however you want to look at that.
Well, it made it less dry. I just don't know how sweet you want this to be. Because like our Madeira and our port is pretty sweet.
I think I'd like it to be more sweet than it is. What about you?
Maybe a little bit.
Another 2?
Sure. Living on the edge.
So this is, we need to probably remind ourselves on the note that this is only a half gallon now.
Oh, yeah. Let me write that down. That looks terrible.
It does.
It looks like swamp water.
There's a couple loose raisins floating at the top now.
How did they escape?
I couldn't tell you.
Jailbreak. I don't think I'd want it any sweeter than that. I like it.
Yeah. I agree. So do we want to do the same thing with this, or we may not even have enough?
I don't even know how much that is left in there.
If we do that, we can combine them for cold crashing and whatever.
How much it
Well, so
ends up being?
we need 4, right? There's some cloudiness in
I
here,
don't
but
think it's gonna be 4. But that's all we got, so...
Nope. So by combining them, we'll actually be going down in sweetness.
Or we could leave one less sweet and one sweeter. Have 2 versions.
That's fine. So you'll have to somehow, so that we basically need another batch note. But
I said that we added the 4 ounces to the one with the figs. And now we're adding, how much was that?
it was about 2.
2 to the other half gallon.
So these are going directly into the fridge to clear up again. Because I've made them very...
So they don't look like swamp water anymore?
Yeah.
No, it looks like the Snake River. Well, the part where we go and take our paddle
I think
boards.
you just insulted the Snake River.
Not all of the Snake River, just the part down in the canyon that we take the paddle boards to.
So, do we want to come back on camera to do this, or do we just want to say that we're done now and we're going to bottle it? I guess we're done now.
I think we're done. We really don't have to do anything else except for combine them and cold crash it.
Well, we're not combining them, right?
Oh, that's right. Never mind. Yeah, we're keeping one. Yeah, so we're done.
So we are done. I will put these back in the fridge for 3 to 4 days at least, and then we will bottle them. And this is, if you like sherry, this is good sherry. Sherry isn't my favorite, unless it's sweeter. And yes, the Pedro Jimenez was too sweet, in my
Yeah.
opinion, both of our
Sounds like
opinions.
syrup.
But this could, in my opinion, I would drink this more readily if it was sweeter. But
Well, I want to know what kind of sherry Fraser drank in the show.
I would assume it's dry.
I think it's dry too. That seems like a snobbish kind of.
Yeah, I'll research when I'm editing.
Okay, well, I guess we're done with this. Thank you all for watching another one of our videos. Hope you enjoyed this one on sherry, and try it and leave us comments. Tell us what you think, and give us tips or ideas on what you did to it afterwards, or if you kept it the way it was. Please like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. If you have, thank you very much for your support. We appreciate it. And until next time, cheers!